Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max.
Welcome, everyone. We are the Geek Patrol, and our microphones don't have a stun setting. Today, we're joining you from a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man roast. So, Alan, is this, are we making fun of him, or do we get out the s'mores?
Oh, no, he was delicious. Well, see, a friend of mine had this tree accident.
Yeah.
And we had a bonfire.
It
and
just
we
sort
had
of
just enough sticks. It was perfect.
The story wrote itself. So, all right, perfect. We're gonna have we got a good night ahead of us, regardless. So,
oh yeah.
Anyway, welcome to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Alan Gilbreth, our buddy Max behind the glass, and sadly not Brandon Olmstead. And Brandon is really kicking himself. He got stuck at work again. Ooh. But what is, okay, like we say, the clock waits for nobody. You're here or you're not.
Don't poke that bear. Don't poke that bear, man.
And I know he's really bummed because we got a special guest sitting in Brandon's chair, as a matter of fact. Our good buddy, Cory Coffman from the Desoto County Ghostbusters. Cory, it's always good to have you on the show, man.
Man, you guys are I'm welcome to be here. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
Cory, of course, is one of the organizers, like we said, of the Desoto County Ghostbusters. They do great work around the Mid-South, and they are the proud owners. Well, you're the proud, I don't know what you call it, guardians of Ecto 17.
We sure try. We still claim it to this day. So
exactly, because you couldn't afford the Ecto 1. So,
yeah, exactly.
But we've seen, people in the Mid-South have seen you around town. They've seen what you're up to, and we're going to talk about that a little later because, of course, we're also going to work in shameless plugs, Alan, because Cory Coffman is going to have we hope, the running Ecto 17 at the Memphis Comic and Fantasy coming up in November. So we've got a lot to get to, and it's always good having a conversation with Cory. Before we get to that, though, Alan, I was hoping you guys would indulge me for just a minute because a few days ago, I spent last Wednesday through Friday, I went to Chicago. I like to get there every year or so to don't roll your eyes at me.
I will point out, he's wearing a Buc-ee's hat.
No, I'm wearing a Cubs hat, you dummy. You can't tell the difference. Okay, anyway.
I was hoping it was Bucky.
No,
I was hoping it was Bucky.
Well, Cory, you said you're a baseball fan. You'll relate to this, right? You're probably not a Cubs fan.
Well,
right?
This is the first year that I don't have any room to talk about teams, but I'm out.
Oh, you're a Cardinal fan.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
there we go.
Point that out.
In the basement. Okay. Well, Alan, so this is something I wanted to just point out. So, Cory, you're a Cardinals fan, so you're familiar with the division, of course. That
Absolutely.
We're kind of in a tooth and nail struggle against the Milwaukee Brewers. But anyway, once a year, they have it twice a year. Once they do it at the White Sox stadium, which I can't remember the name of it because it's some dumb name, like a guaranteed whatever, something. It's not Comiskey Park anymore.
Right.
They have what they call the Crosstown Classic, where the Chicago Cubs play the Chicago White Sox. And then they do the same thing in Wrigley Field. Well, the other night, I was there on Wednesday night, August 16th, a day that will live in infamy for Sox fans and a day that will live in glory for Cubs fans. So the bottom line was, Cory, have you ever, the Cardinals don't have the same kind of rivalry that have crossed town. Like, I'm assuming the Yankees and the Mets probably have something similar.
But for me, growing up in Central Illinois and everything like that, it was that I feel like the first two teams, I didn't even know other teams existed probably until I was like 10. It was always the Cardinals and Cubs because that's the biggest rivalry, at least in Illinois, and I was only 2 hours away from St. Louis.
So in there's a happy ending to this too, Alan. So don't roll your eyes at me. But basically, the Crosstown Classic, especially when you get to Wrigley Field, is a microcosm, in my opinion, of how civilization should be. What you get is a big mixture of people that vehemently disagree about their teams. If you live in Chicago, you never root for both teams. You either pull for one or the other. I don't know why that is, but I don't know anybody that roots for both of the teams. So you have all of these people gathered together, and I was in the left field bleachers where the most rowdy people are, and the game was going, there was a glorious ending. But the thing is, we were giving each other grief. We were teasing each other, but it was all very good-natured. And we totally disagree on which teams we support, and yet everybody had fun together. And at the end of it, there was this only happens maybe once every 3 or 4 years, an epic walk-off home run by Christopher Morel that won the game. We were losing up until the 9th inning, and 3-1. He came up with 2 men on base, hit a home run after being down by 2 strikes. It was the most exciting thing I've ever seen. Within 24 hours, they had already produced a baseball card for that moment, and I ordered it right off the bat. But it's everywhere. If you look on YouTube, it's everywhere. But after the game, everybody got along fine, and it was really fun. And I think even the White Sox fans were glad to be a part of the moment, even though they lost the game. But, Alan, I think that really speaks to what we can disagree. We can have our differences, but if we kind of focus on the fact that we all loved, we're all people, and we all love the same things. And I feel like the world of geekdom has that quality too, So I was just proud to be alive at that moment. It was pretty cool.
We would love to think we do.
I should have asked Alan something upbeat. He always likes to find the dark at. No, I'm
actually going to agree with you.
You go to a convention and you see this every day. I mean, at a convention.
At a convention is, as I love to tell people about these events that we go to, and they're a fairly small population, members of the population actually go to these things. But I tell everybody, you have no idea who you're on the elevator with.
Right.
You have no idea who you're going to bump into in the hall. It could be a doctor. It could be a lawyer. It could be a cheerleader. It could be, who knows who or what they are in real life.
Right.
They might be on the radio. They might be on TV. They might be the person that waited on you at the local deli. So I mean, it's just such a strange microcosm of who's a Star Trek fan,
right,
or who's a Star Wars fan, or who's a baseball fan, and it's just one of those. It's the darndest thing that a person you would have never imagined you've got something in common with, you've now got a whole evening's worth of conversation about.
Right.
You want to see animated? Get a couple of baseball nerds near each other, and you can just watch them begin vibrating stats.
Yeah. Of all ages. It could be a 10-year-old kid and an 80-year-old guy. And that's the stuff we love. And that's why we do the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention coming up November 10th through 12th. Learn more at memphiscfc.com. How do you like that plug? Anyway, I was proud to be a part of that moment, but I'm also going to be proud of the conversation coming up here next on Geek Tank Radio.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. Tom Servo is their spirit droid. The Geek Patrol is back.
He's mine. I can't speak for Alan. Yours is probably that Dalek from, what's his face?
At least it isn't C-3PO.
Yeah, Doctor Who. Okay, yeah.
I don't think
C-3PO.
Daleks aren't technically droids. They're little guys inside robots. Isn't that right?
They're cephalopoids wearing suits.
Okay. Yes. And, of course, R2-D2, really Corey's.
Yeah.
That's Corey's guy. Anyway, welcome back. We could spend the whole segment talking about droids. We need to move along. Welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Alan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass. Unfortunately, Brandon is tied away on professional duties. Long and short, it sounds like somebody didn't show up.
We'll just leave it as tied up, and we'll go from there.
And we couldn't, but it's a shame because we have one of our favorite people in the studio today, Cory Coffman from the Desoto County Ghostbusters, sitting in. I noticed you're sitting in Brandon's chair, Cory.
Oh, he told me to. He said he's pretty livid today, so the least I could do is, keep the seat warm.
Keep the seat warm. So,
absolutely.
Hey, Cory, so we know the DeSoto County Ghostbusters, if people are around town and they see the Ecto 17, which is a pretty close approximation of the Ecto 1 from the original Ghostbusters movie. It's a little bit more updated because, let's face it has to drive. But we've seen you around town. We see you at events. Sometimes you say you'll be driving down the street and you almost cause car accidents because everybody wants to take a photo of you.
Our fair share of police reports, yes.
Okay. But, this is a charity. So correct. I think that's worth mentioning. You guys do a lot of stuff. I know you're going to, children's hospitals, things like that.
I feel like there's nothing we haven't done. I know majority of what we've been doing in the last 4 to 5 years is, anything from Ronald McDonald House, St. Jude, a lot of autism awareness events I feel like they're monthly. And then you still got businesses that want new and upcoming businesses that are starting to grow that are helping the community too as well, whether they're profit or non-for-profit. And we just want to be accessible in DeSoto County, in the Mid-South, and be as productive as we can and help everybody in some fashion.
It's interesting because we were talking about baseball earlier, how it connects generations, and yet Ghostbusters, Alan, when it came out, gosh, we remember the original Ghostbusters. I'm sure you were there, Corey. I didn't know we'd get this much mileage out of it, to be honest. I didn't know that there'd be this entire, Ghostbusters universe, and it still be just as strong today as it is. You
got to consider one, let's look at just the cast and the chemistry of the original movie.
That was the true definition of lightning in a bottle. Almost literally when it came to Stay Puft.
It was almost the perfect storm because you had an experienced handler, for lack of a better word. I would love to say producer, director, writer, whatever, but it was more like a handler.
Right.
Because you got all of these comedians and different people putting together this show that was just really unlike anything anybody had really tried.
It was fun.
It was basically the ectoplasmic version of Jaws.
Not to segue,
there really aren't that many critters in it for most of the movie.
No. You're making me wonder, though, because the original role that Bill Murray played was written for John Belushi. I always wonder what that would have looked like. John Belushi would have been pretty, I don't know.
Well, and it's funny now because the big thing right now that I've seen surface is who could have been or who was originally cast, and including Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And so for it to fall the way it fell, in the rest is history. It's surreal that way,
Yeah, it's interesting, but even it was just a kind of a special movie, and like we said, it spawned a sequel. I liked the sequel. It wasn't as big of a thrill for me, and then I don't know the newer stuff. I know.
Well, the biggest thing about
we
the
can
sequel,
debate that, but it's still the essence of Ghostbusters is awesome.
Well, and the sequel's funny to me because I think the reason it works is because they already went through the fanfare and the big level of who they were in the first one. In the beginning of the second one, they're doing a birthday party because they're struggling because they busted all the ghosts.
Right.
Now what? And I was like, And so as a nonprofit, it's funny being able to take those two films and go, I kind of see what's going on. So,
well, it's funny you say that because you have, sometimes you can't bring the car to an event. Maybe maybe it's an indoor thing. Well, you still have a Vigo, that big scary painting. It's a really good one. It's like almost a. Is it a duplicate in terms of size and everything?
It's a duplicate, and that's actually a little bit larger. I think ours is about 14 feet tall, and it is on a stretched canvas. So we stretch it, and we made a PVC frame for it. And so I have to, construct it, throw it up, but it's easy to tear down and transport. I can put it in my little Mazda, But it's great when you get it erected. Everyone's like, "Can I get a picture with that?" I'm like, "Absolutely."
You can't pass by that without getting a picture.
If it starts talking, that's on you. But
if the eyes move, that's entirely up to you. So.
Yeah, how many you guys must take? 1,000 pictures on a weekend with because you can't walk by the Ghostbusters for one thing, the car or the painting or with your cosplay without stopping and getting a picture. Maybe.
Whether it's with the fans and the people around us, whether it's intentional or it's just like a passing by, people don't want to know. I don't want them to know we're taking a picture. It's really great, and then seeing it tagged through the various social media forums or whatever, it's been really great.
You know what else is cool is you've now Corey, this speaks to you. Are you the leader of the DeSoto County more or less?
Well, since we're a nonprofit, we have a board, and then we also vote on president and other positions. And so as of almost a year and a half ago, I'm the president now of our nonprofit, our 501c Ghostbuster group here. And I still have about 8 or 9 months left. And then if I
you
decide
get
to
reelected,
run again, if I choose, it just depends. But it's nothing's stopped. Even before I got the position I did up until now, I'm still running and gunning. I might be in charge of some more things, but it's really just an example of leadership and just trying to say, hey, I'm doing this. Let's get everyone kind of following suit.
Well, that's what I was going to salute your leadership because Alan, we've seen fan groups, you want to call them or whatever. Yeah. For one thing, half of them are not very well organized. Some of them don't follow through with promises they're going to make. But you guys always show up on time. You have a fun presentation. You help people. You guys don't embarrass us. It's great. We're always really proud to have you there.
Well, we try not to. And that was even brought up at the last, the Covington Comic Con. Everyone's like, well, a lot of people didn't show up or called off. You guys are still here, whether you have the car or not. And I was like, I said, the last thing I want to do is tell someone we can't be in something we've committed to. So.
Right. And that's probably why you get invited to so many events. Because, I mean, that's just as big a part of it. You got to keep your word, man.
100%.
So, it's cool. And then, of course, like we said, you're going to be joining us at the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention. It's going to, I guess your display is going to depend on how well the car is running, which we'll talk about when we come back. You're listening to Geek Tank Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. Even a pair of vibranium diapers couldn't hold back the produced on this show. The Geek Patrol is back.
And Max has tested that theory. I don't know. You know, I don't want to know how you tested it, but it proved,
Dude,
proved
when it
correct.
says only holds 6 to 8 pounds, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just glad the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man had the bathroom break before we did the rows.
Okay, we better move it along. Speaking of moving it along, okay. Anyway, welcome back to, wow, no taste, no class. Thanks, Max.
You should have heard what I was going to say.
Yeah, welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson. I still think there's money to be made in vibranium diapers, but, you know.
If you got the vibranium, let me know.
Let's go for it. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Alan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass, and sitting in for Brandon Olmsted, who couldn't be here today because of professional, I don't know what, commitments or whatever. Well,
Duties.
his sense of duty, he stayed where he needed to
Yes.
be because somebody else didn't get there.
I was going to say duct tape, but
Sitting in for him, keeping the chair warm, is our buddy Cory Coffman with the DeSoto County Ghostbusters. And, you know, Cory, we've been talking a little bit about what you do. We've always praised you because one thing that's important to us is people keeping their promises. You know, we get approached by a lot of people that want to come to the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention or other fan events in town. And sometimes what they say they're going to do doesn't always line up, or sometimes they cancel at the last minute, or sometimes they, you know, it's not as spectacular as maybe what they advertise. You guys tend to under-promise and over-deliver, and you always show up on time, and you always you always add a lot to the event. We appreciate it, man.
No, yeah, that's something I've really wanted the group to build on those last couple of years, whether I was president or not. And we've really strived to just hit the mark and just go over the top. You know, if we're supposed to be there for 2 hours, I would expect it to be 3, because it's really hard to just cut off where you're at and then just move on.
Oh, you can't do that.
The interaction and everyone you're dealing with. So.
If you got a line of people that want photos or whatever, you don't just say, sorry, our time limit's up. So, yeah. Yep.
Okay. I'd love to say, or I'd love to ask, so the first event, the very first time you guys put all this together, A, why? And B, what was it like?
The first time, and I would say the first time we really did an event that really struck a chord with me, and I'll never forget it, was Ron McDonald House. And this is right when we got the car, and we were still in the process of doing it, but they wanted us there so bad for a superhero day. And you want to talk about commitments. I don't remember who all was promised to be there.
Right.
We were the only quote-unquote superheroes that showed up at the Ron McDonald House. And we were still getting our act together, but we had 7 or 8 deep of us, you know, kind of all cladded out. And that first event we ever did was the reason I've been doing it for 5 years.
And that's something.
Because it just struck a chord with me, and it's something I've wanted to impose on my son, who's 13, and just have him understand what the charity and the giving back is, because there were stories that I got that day. And half those kids probably didn't know who we were. You know, it didn't matter. I mean, we probably looked like exterminators.
I wonder if the kids knew the Ghostbusters.
Half of them. But
okay.
I think the fact that we just interacted. I mean, we're doing non-Ghostbuster stuff. Whatever those kids wanted to do, we were just doing it, but we were in our uniforms, not costumes. And that stuck with me ever since. And it's hard to, no joke, it's hard to talk about that whole situation that day without getting emotional about it, because it was mind-blowing. And it's like you think you've seen stuff on TV and know stories and all this, and it's once you do something like that and it affects you the way it did, that you're going, this is what I need to be doing, you know. So.
It becomes addictive, but also it works 2 ways. I mean, like you said, I'm glad you get your son involved at a young age, because then they get to see, you know, that there's a lot of good in humanity, Alan, and there's a lot of and it's fun to give back and everything. You know, and I'm curious, though, because when the Ecto 17 has evolved as you get, you know, as you have a budget basically to add things. But one thing I noticed, sometimes you'll see these like a replica Batmobile, and maybe they only did the outside, but on the inside there's nothing. But you tend to put detail onto the inside and the outside of the vehicle, and you sometimes let people get in and check it out.
They can do anything they want but get in the front seat and drive.
Right.
Literally. And we have decked that car in and out. We gutted it. It was a hearse. It's an 04 hearse. and it's completely accessible. We wanted to make it, especially like the autism awareness events, we wanted to make sure, because you got kids of all ages and adults who want to touch everything in that car. So not only did we make almost everything in the car do something, we proofed it out so they wouldn't get hurt on it as well. And so even though we have a ladder on the side of the car, we make sure to have like a do not climb and, kind of handle that situation. But that car is completely like its own little play place, entertainment center. So
see, that's what I like about your approach, because we've seen it, Alan. Sometimes you see things that are more or less a photo op. Like we said, maybe you have a replica Batmobile and you stand next to it and you take a picture. What you guys create is more of what I would call, you're creating experiences.
Yeah.
They may not even take a picture of the inside of the car. They're touching and they're interacting.
Well, and a lot of these cars you see, it's like, do not touch, and they're roped off. And ours is like, please touch, please interact with it,
Well, the one thing I'm going to point out is he corrected himself and said, this is not a costume. This is a uniform. So
there you go.
Way beyond just having a car, you guys are decked out in full regalia.
Yeah.
I mean, you look like the characters from the movies.
Well, and it's funny, too. We even got kids that are like, well, what movie were you in? Or which guy are you? And I said,
they thought you were in the film.
And I say, oh, that's they make films in New York.
That's the New York group. We're in.
Yeah, they make films up there. We don't make films down here. We're doing the business. They made a film based on what we do. You really got to story tell and build up.
You're keeping it in character.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think when you do that, the selling, the kids are just like, holy crap, it's real.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then the adults, once they start giving into it, they're like, okay, you're starting to really hit on some nerves with me. And the conversation, that's where the conversations happen. So
it's funny how things like that just breaks down barriers, and you get talking to people, and it's probably the same like what we were talking about earlier. You could be talking to a 5-year-old or an 80-year-old about this kind of geeky stuff.
And that's exactly what I have to do. And it's literally back to back.
Yeah, I love that stuff, man. That's what's fun about it. Hey, wait, how do people learn about the Ghostbusters?
So we're on Facebook. We're trying to make a splash with Instagram and TikTok after the fact now. But DeSoto County Ghostbusters at DeSoto County Ghostbusters and all those entities, and then you're going to see some more promotional stuff start pouring in over the next couple months while we get our Ecto back up and running. We're going to have to kind of compensate. We're overdoing it with a lot of other props and stuff just so we can get our car back up, because that's the golden piece that everyone wants to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, and if we'll talk more when we come back about if you want to invite the DeSoto County Ghostbusters to your event. You're listening to Geek Tank Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Geek Tank Radio on 98.1 The Max. After tuning into this show, the men in black wipe their own memories. The Geek Patrol is back.
I mean, it makes sense, Alan. They don't need this to. They need these are groups that need to focus. They don't need to
just watch the fleshy thing, Joe. You'll be all right. Just watch
Absolutely.
the fleshy thing.
And welcome back to Geek Tank Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson here with my friends Alan Gilbreth and our buddy Max over there behind the glass, and sitting in for the absent Brandon Olmstead. Not absent by choice, absent by duty. He is a man of duty, and when things fall apart, he stays to take care of it, which is what he did. So sitting in for Brandon is our buddy Cory Coffman with the DeSoto County Ghostbusters. You are technically, you're the elected president, right? This isn't a dictatorship.
Correct, yeah.
This isn't Star Wars.
No, he's the conscripted.
Yeah.
I'm just the mouthpiece, yeah.
And if you're new to the DeSoto County Ghostbusters, if you're just tuning in, you guys are a charity, but it's a pretty fun charity. I mean, you go around decked out in the full Ghostbusters regalia that you guys make yourself, and they're pretty movie accurate costumes and stuff. Some of you guys take a little bit of liberties, but Yeah. And you've got the Ecto 17, which is a more modern update of the Ecto 1. You also have that giant painting of Vigo, that creepy guy from the second movie. That was good. I liked him. He was a very creepy antagonist. And you bring all of these to events like the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention, and you and you interact with the fans. It's great, man. It sounds so simple, but it's amazing how engaging that is.
And lately, what we decided to do also, just because not that I get stagnant, but my wife, who normally dons the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man costume,
she gets stuck. That's a hot costume to wear,
it's
right?
about 4 inches thick of dense foam. So if you see it in parades or at conventions, and you're wondering, man, that's the shortest Stay Puft I've ever seen. We just call it an oversized mini puff, whatever you want to call it. That's my 5 foot tall wife, and that usually.
Isn't that something?
But the kids just eat it, like no pun intended.
Literally, yeah.
There you go. So,
no, we appreciate it. So now, you got a few problems with the engine right now, and it's
funny.
Ecto 17.
Bud said it was going to happen, and it's happening. We've had a lot of things, done to the car, just not only making it look cool, making sure it runs the distance. It's an 04, has under 100,000 miles, but it's a hearse. It was originally a hearse, so it was never meant to be driven on the highways to Covington at 60 miles an hour. It was never meant to be driven every day. Wasn't meant to be driven with the rack full of X number of pounds of goofy stuff on top of it either. But we are making it work. We got a couple issues right now that we have Red's Motorworks in Tunica working on it right now, and we're hoping to have it back up and running at least by middle of September, and because we've already booked out. You talk about from September to December. It is on our GroupMe app thing. It's like, holy crap! There is that many things going on, and so right now what we've been doing is we've been overcompensating since the car's down. We've been overcompensating with bringing out the woodwork in terms of everything we can, prop, art, toy, just to interact and make sure it's still an over-the-top experience for our fans and everyone involved.
Hey, Cory, if people want you to come to their event, is there criteria? Because I know you're a nonprofit. Is there any regulations?
We're a nonprofit. I mean, really, it feels like the only thing we can't do is political stuff, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, who wants to get involved in that mess?
But really, it's just reaching out to us right now on Facebook is the easiest way. And then if you see our car passing by, we have a phone number. It's legit. It bounces off the satellites and towers in New York, and it does come. It's a New York number.
Oh, and that's
because the mothership up there and all that.
Of course.
But you hit us up, and we can do just about anything. We've done a lot of really good business stuff with up and coming businesses, mom and pop businesses, where we camp out front. Everyone stops by for us and goes, "Hey, what's going on?"
Right.
And we're like, "Oh, we just buzzed, a stage 4 aberration," and they gave us these teas, and they're like, "Hey, you should go in there and get some teas. It's ghost free now." And then it actually does drive business. You'd be surprised. So they stop for the car, they stay for the business. So.
And let's be honest, you guys accept sponsorships because I've seen a few. Now they're pretty cool. If somebody wants to sponsor the Ghostbusters, you'll put their company logo on the side, but you put a variation, like a ghost version of it, and it actually, to me, enhances the whole.
Well, we didn't want to turn it into a NASCAR.
You don't want to just look like a billboard.
So we have designated spaces, and what we do is we Ghostbusterize the logo with permission, and we go through a whole design. I'm a graphic designer by trade, so we go through that whole process of making sure it keeps intact the integrity of the branding from the said sponsor.
It's very eye-catching, man. Yeah. To me, I think it makes a lot of sense for your business to get it slapped on the side of the. Everybody looks at it. Nobody is ignoring the car. So do that. Get in touch with Cory. One more time. How do they get in touch with you?
You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Just look up at DeSoto County Ghostbusters. There's probably some hashtags in between, but it's pretty easy to find us and what we're doing. And again, if you see the car or us, feel free to hit us up. We got business cards. We have QR codes. The whole nine, so we can definitely get you in contact with us one way or the other.
Okay, and we're less than 3 months away from the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention. I don't know where this year went out. Really, honestly, I feel like we just did it a few weeks ago, but it's coming up. So we're going to be there. We're in a new venue. We're very happy because we're in a bigger venue, a really cool venue, the Holiday Inn at the University of Memphis, right there by the campus. I mean, literally, the students are 50 feet away across the street, so we're probably going to get a lot of them. We have some great things going on. For one thing, we have a celebrity guest, Jonah Ray, who is the star of the newer iteration of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Super nice guy. I met him at another event, and he was kind enough to join. He's going to join us this year. Just a really down-to-earth, great fun guy, and he brings the swag. He brings all sorts of cool stuff. He's not just signing photos. He's got records. He's got all sorts of stuff he's going to bring. Also, thanks to the great folks over there at never mind. I got to remember I got so many different people to thank. Let's just say this. We're giving away, not giving, you have to win this. You're going to win somebody is going to walk away with a $2,000 gaming console. It's one of those retro deals, Alan. Like those one, but it's a competition. You have to, now it's free to compete. You don't have to, whatever. But there's a lot of information. I can't get to it all, but it's coming up November 10th through 12th at the University of Memphis. Go to memphiscfc.com to get tickets and learn more. And I have about 5 vendor booths left if you're a vendor and you want to get a booth. But you guys, I don't know where the time went. I always say that every week, but it's time to get out of here. The show's over. So until next week, we are the Geek Patrol, and I am Joe Thorderson.
I'm Cory Coffman.
I'm Maximilian.
And I'm Alan Gilbreth, reminding you that if you are packing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on your back, please don't cross the streams.